live. Buccaneers win the coin toss and will receive tonight's crystal clear high-definition broadcast brought to you by Bright House. John Lynch, Chris Myers. Let's take a look at the Suncoast Hyundai dealers' keys to the game.
And number one, you see it. Find the best 53 bucks. That doesn't mean the most talented players. That means that make up the best roster and give this team the best chance to win. Number two, you got to lock up some starting position. We know that DeMar Dodson's in a battle with Jeremy Trueblood at the right tackle position. With Davin Joseph's injury, all of a sudden you got a battle at the right guard position. And finally, you got to stay healthy. We saw how devastating that can be. People have to play. This is football, but you want to come out of this fourth preseason game with no more injuries.
So kicking has been a bit of an adventure for the Redskins. Billy Cundiff, the ex-Raven, who many feel cost Baltimore a chance at the Super Bowl last year, is kicking off. Graham Gano was cut. Tyquan Underwood back to return. And the Bucs will take it on the 20-yard line, beginning on offense. You touched on some of the battles going on, John, for reserves, as Brett Ratliff gets the start at quarterback number 3 on the depth chart. Has never thrown a pass in a regular season NFL game. Buck fans saw him a little earlier in the preseason. Josh Freeman, the starter, given a rest, along with veteran Dan Orlovsky, who has done well in the backup role.
Great opportunity for Ratliff. Whether he's with the Bucs or not, this is a great opportunity to get some great playing time, put up some film for the rest of the league to look at and or make the Buccaneers squad.
Michael Smith, the rookie running back, splits out as a wide receiver to the right. Ratliff knocked down. We'll be watching Moses Madu, who's, as you touched on, battling to make the roster along with some receivers. We take a look at the ones to watch, brought to you by Mid-Florida Credit Union, your community credit union.
And I think, you know, there's various spots. Look, everyone's fighting for a roster spot that's playing here today. The starters are resting. In fact, they practiced today. They're focusing on Carolina and the Saints for the Washington Redskins, but these guys are fighting for their jobs. And the running back and wide receiver positions are ones to watch for sure.
Second down 14. Handoff to Michael Smith. Smith, who's won the return job for kickoffs, was not expected to play a lot tonight because Moses Madu behind starter Doug Martin and LeGarrette Blount. That's where the battle is. Do the Bucs keep 4 halfbacks and maybe just 1 fullback and Eric Laurie?
I think it's a distinct possibility because of the fact that Michael Smith's so valuable as a returner. He's looked really good. He adds an explosive element there. And I think Moses Madu really needs to shine tonight to make them really think hard about keeping 4 halfbacks on their roster.
Greg Schiano facing a 3rd and 12. Ted Larson, who's supposed to step into that right guard spot, getting the start at center tonight. Versatility on the offensive line is what the Bucs are looking for. Ratliff's throw short to Sammy Strotter, one of those bubble guys, and it'll be a 4th down. Kai Forbath, the rookie from UCLA, who's been clutch as a field goal kicker, is also going to be the punter. So we know that Michael Kanan and Connor Barth have those positions all locked up, as Brandon Banks is back to return. Averaged 46 yards a punt as the snap is low, but he stays with it. There's a flag way back at the 25-yard line of Tampa Bay. Forbath did not punt a lot in college, but in high school as a senior, averaged 46 yards a boot, but did not punt at UCLA, was just a place kicker. Check on the flag.
What you're going to have is ineligible people downfield with the bad snap. The timing was all messed up, and you're going to have ineligible people downfield, but I bet the Redskins keep the ball right where it is.
Excellent field position. Jim Core is our referee, the replacement official, and when the regular season opens, that's what we're going to be working with. The 38-yard punt.
Ineligible and downfield. 51 of the kicking team. For 5 yards on the end of the kick, 1st down Redskins.
For a quick injury report, brought to you by HCA West Florida, providing great fast care. Let's head down to the field and Dave Worth.
Yeah, most of the starters are getting the night off. There are 3 starters, though, who are nursing minor injuries. Gerald McCoy with a knee, Adrian Claiborne with an elbow, and Mason Foster with that hamstring. They won't be playing tonight, definitely, but the Bucs are hoping they'll be ready for the opener on September the 9th. Chris?
Thanks, Dave. Dave will chat with Gerald McCoy coming up at the half. Second half, Mark Dominic, general manager of the Bucs, will be with us live to talk about some of the personnel moves as Evan Royster is the back. Kirk Cousins throws incomplete. He was looking for Anthony Armstrong. Of course, Robert Griffin III, the quarterback when the Redskins opened the regular season. But let's take a look at the Buccaneer defensive players worth watching tonight.
And the real interesting spots to watch there is the secondary. You got the safety position where you have Cody Grimm, Larry Asante, and Keith Tandy really fighting for that last couple safety position. And then the corners, Leonard Johnson and Myron Lewis, who's been really good in practice but has struggled in the games fighting for that corner spot.
Cousins completes the pass. Josh Morgan, the ex-49er, who is in a battle for a roster spot. The Redskins deep at receiver as well. Morgan is from the D.C. area, went to college at Virginia Tech. And will bring up a third down. For Kirk Cousins, kind of unusual. You trade up and you draft Robert Griffin, who's your star, to then later draft a guy like Cousins in the 4th round, but they have loved what they have seen out of him so far. Pass is caught. Anthony Armstrong has a Redskin first down.
You see a nice throw by Kirk Cousins, and an old coach of mine, John Gruden, had a philosophy: you can't have enough good quarterbacks. So they went after a couple of them. And Kirk Cousins, look, Robert Griffin's the guy here and is going to be the guy, but he's sure giving them some insurance at that backup position, battling with Rex Grossman, and another opportunity for him to shine tonight.
Evan Royster the back after a gain of 15. And Royster carries. Kirk Cousins, the last of his 39 starts for Michigan State in college, at Raymond James Stadium in the Outback Bowl in 2012 when he defeated Georgia in 3 overtimes, 33-30.
People talk about all the time NFL ready. As a guy NFL ready, this guy blew away teams because they felt he was NFL ready. He's a guy, a 4-year starter at Michigan State. This is a guy who impresses people when he gets on a blackboard, and he's impressed people on the field, more importantly, this preseason.
Inside the 30 at Tampa Bay. Redskins' first possession. And Royster carries again. Tim Hightower nursing an injury. The same for Roy Halou. Those will be your star backs when the Redskins open the regular season. And from Florida Atlantic, Alfred Morris has starred in this preseason in the running game, a 6th-round draft pick. After a gain of 5, now 3rd and 3.
And if you study Mike Shanahan's history, you know he'll play a stable full of running backs, and all those guys can get reps. You think of Terrell Davis, he doesn't care where you're from, where you're drafted, and he's got a history of making running backs stars in this league.
Terrell Davis, also a 6th-round draft pick, helped John Elway and the Broncos to Super Bowl success. The pass is batted incomplete. And now it'll be 4th down for the Redskins. George Johnson, reserve defensive lineman in his 2nd year from Rutgers, knocked the pass away.
George Johnson, we talk about the depth of this team. Defensive line is a position of concern. Last week we see Adrian Claiborne go out. As you see Johnson get his hands up. Actually, it was inside Gilberry who got his hands up there. But George Johnson is going to be relied on to give them some quality snaps as they open this season.
Billy Cundiff on to try the field goal and delivers to give the Redskins a 3-0 lead. Cundiff good from 39 yards out. So a shaky punt because of a shaky snap set up the opportunity for the Redskins to move in and score the first points of this game. John, the veterans of the Buccaneers didn't exactly have the day off. We'll tell you about that when we continue from FedEx Field. Redskins with a 3-0 first quarter lead, and because of some weather problems back home in the Tampa Bay area, practice limited this week.
And they got their practice in today, though. They took a little tour of Georgetown University and got a practice in, a full practice for the starters. The guys not playing tonight, they were running scout team. They're running Carolina plays. So while this is a very important game for the team and forming the back end of the roster, they got great work focusing on the Carolina Panthers that they'll be opening with on September 9th.
Tyquan Underwood backs up and out through the end zone. So once again, the Buccaneers will start at the 20-yard line. 84 degrees this evening, low humidity at 35%. Just a slight wind here at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. We'll check on the Bucs offense. They get their second try of the night. You're watching Buccaneer football live. We welcome you back, and the injured Redskin Tristan Davis, running back from Auburn, being helped off the field. One of those concerns, they've been beat up at running back. And you don't have to talk to the Buccaneers about a preseason injury after the Davin Joseph injury, and Jamon Meredith getting more play at right guard with Larson at center on that offensive line.
And I think that's important, and it bodes well for Meredith. He's the guy who's getting the first crack at that right guard spot vacated by Davin Joseph. He's a guy who stood out early in the preseason as an extra tight end, really getting great movement. Greg Schiano was high on him, and he's getting the first shot at that right guard position.
Michael Smith carries, 7th round draft pick from Utah State, who was outstanding, averaging 7.6 a carry his senior year, averaged over 7 yards a carry, sharing time as a running back, but that speed you've seen already in the preseason, John, in the return game. Certainly a valuable asset for him to try to make this football team.
His teammates gave him a hard time because he's a 4.33 guy that got caught on that kickoff return at Miami. But that dimension, that's big to a football team. And I think I've said it over and over, you can't teach speed. That's something he's been blessed with.
This is Ratliff, and open is Underwood underneath. It'll bring up a 3rd down.
Interesting thing at that offensive line at the right guard position, conventional wisdom would have been that Ted Larson you see at center. Nice pocket all the time in the world for Ratliff. He delivers a strike, but you'd think that Ted Larson was next in line. But sometimes your versatility actually hurts you. I think they like the fact he can play center and both guards, and that's more suited towards a backup. And maybe a guy like Jamon Meredith gives you a bigger presence at right guard. They're going to give him a crack. He's usually a tackle, but he gets the opportunity.
Underwood on the left side on 3rd and 4. They're going to run it, and short of the first down is Smith. It'll be another punting situation for the Buccaneers, and Kai Forbath, who's been a terrific place kicker so far. In fact, teams looking for kickers like the Redskins, you would have thought would have given the Bucs a call.
He did a wonderful job getting that first punt off. It was a bad snap. He did a great job just getting that ball off.
Here's Forbath, graduate of Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks, California. This time, snap good. Kick is a pretty good boot. Back inside the 25 of Washington is Banks. Run out of bounds up near the 37, 38-yard line of Washington. Kai Forbath, the class of 07, with Giancarlo Stanton of the Marlins and Jerry Mathers. Remember the actor from Leave It to Beaver in the class of 66, same high school. Tonight the Bucs are leaving it to Forbath. The Redskins unite Washington. The NFL unites America. And choose your battles. Tampa Bay Buccaneers individual game tickets on sale now for as low as $30. You can get them today at Buccaneers.com and be there for the opener September 9th when Cam Newton and the Panthers come to Raymond James Stadium. On first down, Cousins the quarterback. Royster, they fake to him. Throws and almost intercepted. Excellent play in the secondary by Myron Lewis. And John, I was just going to mention the depth at the secondary position. You mentioned in the last game that this is an area of strength, or could be, for this Buccaneer defense.
And this guy could really help add to that position of strength. You look at him stretch his arms out. I'm down on the field before, and Rondé Barber said, would you just look at this guy? His arms are so long. His hand, that is the perfect body for an NFL corner. He does it in practice. He needs to learn how to do it in the games. It's little things like technique, a great opportunity for him tonight to put it to work on the field.
On 2nd and 10, Royster, the former Penn State Nittany Lion, carries. Keith Tandy, one of those rookie defensive draft picks, up from his safety spot. He actually leads the team in tackles this preseason. Likely that 6 of the 7 draft choices of the Buccaneers will make this team, something we'll ask General Manager Mark Dominic about as he joins us in the second half.
It's easy to get down on a guy like Myron Lewis that was a somewhat high draft choice, a second-round pick. But sometimes it takes time. I tell people all the time, I had a wonderful career in this league. It took me till year 3 to become a full-time starter.
Pass is complete to Morgan, facing a 3rd and 5.
Josh Morgan, a big free agent acquisition from the 49ers for the Redskins this offseason, along with Pierre Garçon at the wide receiver position. Much like we've seen with the Bucs, you're going to go invest that much money in a quarterback. You want to surround him with some weapons.
A first down catch. Of course, Santana Moss, the savvy veteran, along with Leonard Hankerson, the rising rookie, the top receivers for the Redskins heading into the season. Cousins flips it to Royster. Tries to put a move on. He's in Buccaneer territory, close to the 45-yard line. Second possession for the Redskins. Second time moving into Buccaneer territory. Gain of 6. We might see Rex Grossman later in this game, and then ex-Buck Jonathan Crompton, cut, re-signed by the Redskins, may get some playing time. Roy Halou Jr. checks in at running back on 2nd and 4. The pitch, he loses the handle. Here comes a flag, and it's out of bounds at the 40. Hadn't been playing much because of injury, and probably hadn't been playing much with Kirk Cousins.
Holding, 67, offense. That penalty be declined. Results of play makes it 3rd down.
And this is a mugging. You're going to see Laribas right here. His guy got by him. He got a handful. Gets back up. There's a hold. That's pretty obvious.
Bucks decline, and the Redskins are in a hole, so a good test for Cousins and an opportunity for the Bucks pass rush, which has improved in each game, John, to apply some heat.
See Dakota Watson out there as a joker, as they call it. He can rush or drop. He drops right now.
Pass to Royster, and he'll be well short, so 4th down facing the Redskins offense as Cousins heads off the field. Why do they call that the Joker? Nothing funny about a guy getting to the quarterback. If you're the quarterback.
Because he's a wild card. He can
Okay.
rush. He can rush from the inside, from the outside. He can drop into coverage. That's the versatility that Dakota Watson brings to this team. I was talking to Mark Dominic before the game. I said, so does he count as a defensive lineman, a linebacker? He said, that's a good question.
He counts as making the team.
That's right.
Fair catch called for by Jordan Shipley, the ex-Bengal, wearing number 84, who will see some work at wide receiver, as John touched on at the top of the broadcast, coming off the ACL injury. Hoping for that burst of speed he had in his rookie year. We'll have more. Redskins lead the Bucks 3-0. Wright, 5-year, $37 million contract, who complimented the secondary this week, said we're athletic, we're aggressive. With rookie safety Mark Barron already has a touchdown run back for this preseason.
And I agree with him. You know, I said it last week. I think it can really become a strength. We saw Mark Barron. The Mark Barron people saw at University of Alabama. He unleashed it a little bit last week. Started playing and showed a glimpse of what he can bring to this defense.
Moses Madu in the backfield from the 10, and he'll lose yardage. Buccaneers have been playing backed up in their own end zone. Keenan Robinson, the rookie from Texas, right in on the tackle.
Sometimes as a running back, you got to make somebody miss, but it doesn't help when he's in your backfield. You need to do a little bit better job giving Moses Madu some room, because as we've seen, when he has a little room, he can make some things happen.
It'll be 2nd and 11 for Ratliff, who's played with the Jets, the Browns, the Jags, the Patriots, the Titans, and Bucks. When I say played with, been on their roster, but never in a NFL regular season game has he thrown a pass. He has time, but he goes down. He held it, and the Redskins got to him.
Let's take a look at Jamon Meredith filling in for Davin Joseph. That's what you lose. Look at that push. Worthington gets up the middle. That takes away that pocket, and so regardless of who replaces Davin Joseph, he's a hard guy to replace because of something just like that. You got to be able to set your anchor. Jamon Meredith doesn't do a good job of it right there.
3rd and 17 after the second sack on Ratliff. Michael Smith trying to give the punter some room. We'll see how much room Kai Forbath has. Punting from his own end zone. Now, Zach Pianalto was the long snapper, the reserve tight end. So you're giving Economos, your normal long snapper, a breather as well.
And I think to myself, what does the NFL come to in the 4th preseason game when you're resting long snappers? The punter is resting. The kicker is resting. They're counting their money, Kanan and Connor Barth. And the long snapper, Economos, is snapping. And poor Zach Pianalto, actually it's an opportunity, but he's bounced 2 back to Forbath.
And Forbath trying to win a job somewhere from his own end zone. Can he get it off? He does. And rolls it at the 45, Brandon Banks. All the way down to the 20 at Tampa Bay. Banks, a return specialist who's in a fight for his roster life because of the depth at receiver on this Redskin team. A 22-yard return after a 41-yard kick by Kai Forbath.
You can talk about depth at receiver. All I know is when I watch a guy like Banks at returner, every time I turn it on, he's making a play. I'd keep him on the roster.
Good to see Buccaneer fans across the country, no matter what jersey they're in.
The old, the new. Got a Brett Ratliff jersey.
Hoping those are rare. Meanwhile, Cousins 5 out of 8, 49 yards passing. And on 1st down. On the move, incomplete. He put it right where it had to be to Niles Ball. Now the tight end position, Fred Davis resting tonight. Remember, they cut Chris Cooley, the longtime Redskin tight end, 2-time Pro Bowler who's on the loose.
But a guy who's been making plays all over the field for this Buccaneer secondary is Ahmad Black. Had the big interception in preseason game number 2, but he's been all over the field. Greg Schiano has talked about him glowingly. Certain guys have a knack, a nose for the ball, are always around it. Ahmad Black has shown himself to be one of those guys.
From Lakeland High School as Royster carries. Short of the 21-yard line, it'll bring up a 3rd down for the Redskins. They're going to need 8 for a first, but already in Billy Cunda field goal range. Now, Ahmad Black may not have the greatest speed or size, but he seems to be, and he says he likes being around the football because he likes the attention and you get your name mentioned when you're around the football.
Well, you keep getting yourself around the ball, young man, and I'll call your name out plenty.
We'll be watching Cody Grimm throughout the game back there, who started for the Redskins, or I should say for the Bucs, the last couple of years. He'll be in the game against the Redskins. Cousins is going to run and slide and has a 1st and goal Redskins.
Here we are early in the game, but I tell you what you're going to have. You're going to have some real tired defensive linemen because the starters aren't playing. So a guy like Dakota Watson, you're going to get every defensive snap. You're going to get some special team snaps. See big Frank Oakham there in the middle. These guys are going to be huffing and puffing because they're going to get a lot of snaps tonight.
Evan Royster carries. It'll be second down after a gain of 11 by Cousins. Clock running here in the opening quarter. The Bucs have not shown much on offense. Washington has taken advantage of good field position. And Greg Schiano says, let's get to Friday without any more injuries so that I can get to September 9th against the Panthers at Raymond James Stadium. Coming off a impressive third preseason game when the regulars played more than in any other game. On second down, goal to go, Washington. We have either a flag or a timeout.
Timeout, Washington. That's our first charge timeout.
Redskins calling time. John, you were joking about resting this guy or that guy. Mike Shanahan's been in the game a long time here, but when you're a Redskin team that won 5 games last year, the Bucs won 4 and have a new head coach. I mean, how much should some of your starters play that are young and trying to mesh with some of the other guys you're bringing in, whether it's a Vincent Jackson or a Dallas Clark with a Josh Freeman?
Yeah, it's easy for me to say because I'm up here, but I got to tell you, as a player, sometimes I wanted to play in this 4th preseason game because as it got closer, I wanted just to get out there a little bit and feel it a little bit. And I think for teams like we're talking about that won 5 games and 4 games, you need the work. And in today's NFL world, you don't have 2-a-days anymore. You've got 90 players on your roster. That means less reps. You need these reps. These are important. And I understand after something like that happens to Davin Joseph, you lose him for a year.
Incomplete for Brandon Banks on the coverage by Myron Lewis.
But it's important for players and teams to play. I think coaches are under a lot of pressure because you lose a guy like Davin Joseph, it's hard to win in this league. They don't make many Davin Josephs. But at the other end of the spectrum, your guys need work. And so that's the battle that the NFL faces, and sometimes why the 4th preseason game's not the best product.
On 3rd and goal after the heads-up play by Lewis. Here's Cousins. End zone, incomplete. He was looking for Niles Paul. Coverage pretty good back there.
By Najee Good. And that's what you love about these games is that, look, the starters aren't playing, but you've got a lot of really good football players fighting for their livelihood, fighting to make these teams, if not, put up good film for the other teams around the league. And you'll see the Bucs, I would be led to believe, picking up some people. Scanning the waiver wire, at least. We've seen it from Mark Dominic before.
27-yard field goal try. And Billy Cundiff, maybe that's why they scooped him up in a hurry when he was let go at Baltimore. He's 2 for 2. Redskins have a 6-0 advantage. Najee Good, 5th-round draft pick from West Virginia, a roommate of Keith Tandy, the defensive back we talked about. It was a 6th-round draft pick at West Virginia. As Greg Schiano said when he was at Rutgers, he couldn't beat West Virginia, so if you can't beat him, draft him.
Najee Good, smart. What he's doing is picking the brain of a veteran player in the league and now coach in Brian Cox, who's the front 7 coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We joked about him last week being the guy that calls the signals because Brian's a little off the wall, but we talked about it in last week's broadcast. This guy's one of the smarter football players to play the game. You talk to players and coaches that played with him, they'll tell you that, and a great resource for these linebackers and the entire squad to really have on the sidelines.
You got Butch Johnson as a consultant, I should say Butch Davis, excuse me, and you have Bill Sheridan, the defensive coordinator, and then they relay it through, and as Greg Schiano said, he listens in. And he said that Brian Cox understands the thinking of the player out there, the middle linebacker, whether it's Mason Foster or Adam Hayward last week who played well. Foster, by the way, should be okay for the regular season opener, resting that hamstring in his 2nd year after contributing to a fine rookie year. A Ram truck scoring drive didn't take much for Washington as Cundiff kicks off. Underwood back to return. And once again, no return. Only 53% of the kickoffs were returned last year once they moved it up, but the concussions were down some 40% on kickoffs.
And at first I didn't like the rule because I didn't think it would affect the injuries that much. But when you show data that the injuries are down significantly, then I think it makes sense, because that's where a lot of those injuries, concussion-related injuries, happen. In the wedges, that's the most violent action in football, and so I applaud the league for making a good change.
Brett Ratliff, 1 out of 2. He's been sacked twice already. Moses Madu in after Michael Smith got most of the work in the quarter. He splits out as a receiver and catches it, but goes down in a hurry. Deshaun Gomes from his safety spot as we wind down here in the opening quarter. It'll be 2nd down 11.
Deshaun Gomes and the rest of that Washington secondary, coached by no other than the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer head coach, Raheem Morris. I'd be proud of Deshaun. And talking to D'Angelo Hall on the field before the game, he's loving having Raheem Morris around, and he said, I'm a better player for it already.
That is the end of the first quarter of the Ram Truck scoreboard. It's the Redskins 6 and the Buccaneers nothing. Second straight preseason that the Buccaneers are closing out here in Landover, Maryland. It's Mike Shanahan on the Redskins. Tampa Bay -4 total yards in that opening quarter. The Redskins with 70 yards of offense and a couple of field goals. On 2nd and 11, Moses Madu, the running back. Brett Ratliff has gone all the way at quarterback. Inside the Tampa Bay 20. Pass for Underwood, and he hauls it in up near the 30-yard line. Tyquan Underwood, you know the story. Jacksonville, then New England, cut right before the Super Bowl. No hard feelings. But a star from Rutgers who has a chance with this team.
Well, he's got a history with the head coach of this football team, which helps. But what helps more is that he's made plays. He kind of went quiet in the middle of the preseason, but the first preseason game was certainly the star, and he's come out hot here tonight. You pull for guys like this. You know, cut the day before the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. He's handled it with class, and I think when you do that, you get other opportunities, and he's trying to make the most of it.
First down from the 30. Ratliff warming up, floats one, and hauled in by Sammy Strotter, who steps out of bounds. Another Tampa Bay first down.
And when you look at these guys, we just saw 2 players that are maybe battling for that same roster spot. And as I mentioned in the open, good football players. It's a good sign when you've got tough decisions. And at the wide receiver position, you're going to have some tough decisions. Sammy Strotter also brings the versatility of being a good punt returner as well, can play the slot, brings a lot to the table.
Gain of 18. Strotter has started 4 times in his career, has played in 31 NFL games. From the 48 of the Bucs, Ratliff, and it's nearly intercepted. Right in the hands of linebacker Rob Jackson, but he didn't hold on.
And Ratliff has to see Jackson, but you see Jackson sometimes in this 3-4 system, those outside linebackers rush, and sometimes they drop. It looks like he's going to rush, but he pulls the old okey-doke, drops into coverage. Ratliff doesn't see him, and Jackson misses the layup. That's an easy pick. He should have had it.
Linebacker Chris Wilson had his hand on the ankle of Brett Ratliff. 2nd down 10. Hand off Madu. Bucs have had no running game.
This Washington defense has been pretty suffocating, and if you're a guy like Moses Madu, you're saying, come on, guys, give me some room. I'm trying to fight for a roster spot. You're not giving me much wiggle room, and sometimes you got to take it into your own hands, Moses.
It'll be 3rd and 10. Madu on the sideline here. Madu played all 4 seasons at Oklahoma. He is not practice squad eligible, so that's why this game is critical for him. Ratliff goes down. 3rd sack of the game for the Redskins.
You see a lot of guys up. They bring the pressure. Kendrick Golston comes free. And Jim Haslett, he runs a Pittsburgh Steelers style of defense, always been noted for the pressure that he brings, the confusion that it creates. And right there you get an interior defensive lineman coming free up the middle. Not a good situation for Brett Ratliff.
So here is Forbath from his 25, getting a lot of work. Brandon Banks on the 5. He can fly. Across the Washington 40. Zach Pianalta made the stop on special teams. Redskins once again with excellent field position. 37-yard punt, but an 18-yard return by Banks. Bucs on defense, trailing here 6-0. Hey, John, we have Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune coming to 10 News September 17th. That's right, on 10 News, same times, just a new channel. Wheel of Fortune, weeknights at 7. Jeopardy weeknights at 7:30. It all starts September 17th right here on 10 News. And if we ask you a question, who was hired as a head coach of the Bucs at the age of 32?
Who is Raheem Morris?
Very good. And he turns 36 years old next week. Now the defensive backs coach with the Redskins. No hard feelings. Bruce Allen, the one-time boss in Tampa Bay, general manager in Washington, said, come work with us and Mike Shanahan and Jim Haslett's staff.
And what a great opportunity for Raheem Morris. Raheem brings a lot to the table, young, energetic coach with a lot to offer a team. I've told you before, he'll be a head coach again. And what a great opportunity for him to go study on a guy who's won a couple of world championships in Mike Shanahan. He's taken in all this knowledge, and he's going to help this team as the secondary coach. And
grateful to the Buccaneer organization for giving him a chance as a head coach. Evan Royster on second down. Back to throw Cousins. And completes. Anthony Armstrong. A 46-yard gain. Myron Lewis on the coverage.
Now I want you to watch the pressure. We've seen a lot of this from Greg Schiano and the Bucs under this new regime. But what that's going to do is create one-on-ones outside. Your corners better be able to stand up because you're going to have those one-on-one situations. Myron Lewis gets beat right there. That's why they call that the island out there. You're all alone, particularly when you pressure it up.
Cousins. Incomplete. He had Morgan and Austin in the end zone, but just got rid of it. I like the way Cousins gets out and moves with the football.
And Mike Shanahan's offense, you think of Jake Plummer, John Elway back in the day. He always likes getting his quarterbacks on the perimeter. They run that zone running scheme where you're going to move side to side, but off that comes the boot action. And so he has a propensity to draft guys like an RG3 that can really move, a Kirk Cousins who can move as well.
Evan Royster. Inside the 5, down near the goal line. No touchdown yet. And Cody Grimm, backup safety, keeping him out of the end zone. First and goal, Redskins after a gain of 13.
Here's that zone scheme, side to side, and Mike Shanahan likes one-cut runners. There he goes. He puts his foot in the ground, and a nice play by Cody Grimm, saving the touchdown. Cody, as we've talked about with Larry Asante, Ahmad Black, battling for one of those final safety roster spots. I want a guy like that on my team.
Royster, touchdown, Redskins.
Evan Royster making his claim for that starting job at the running back position. He knows that Mike Shanahan's got a stable of running backs, and he'll play the hot hand. He's trying to be that hot hand week 1 versus the New Orleans Saints.
All of a sudden, they got 4 or 5 guys that can handle that position, from Hightower and Halou and Alfred Morris, the rookie, Tristan Davis, depending upon who's healthy. And Robert Griffin III, the starting quarterback. And Well, the extra point good, so it's 13-0. Royster has carried 5 times and capped the drive with a touchdown run. Bucs offense has done little. Evan Royster, first touchdown of the game so far. Two teams that plan on improving their record. 5 wins for Washington last year. 8 carries, 28 yards, and the touchdown for Evan Royster. Of course, the Buccaneers off the 4-win season. The Ram truck scoring drive for Washington. They've been doing all the scoring. These two teams will play the 4th week of the regular season at Raymond James. Underwood is going to bring it out. And Taekwon with an impressive kickoff return out across the 30-yard line. A 40-yard return. He's also been used in the passing offense so far tonight.
The more you can do. They say it all the time. You say it in life. My parents used to tell me the more you can do. Versatility. Greg Schiano, one of his mentors in the business, Bill Belichick, he preaches versatility. It brings a lot to the roster.
And I know your versatility. You analyze the plays. You give us injury reports. You help me with my coffee. We'll have a lot more. We'll have a lot more in a moment.
Watch out, Jim Van Fleet.
On first down, Ratliff's throw is complete. Zach Pianalto, who's been mentioned tonight as a long snapper, tight end his primary position, was in camp with the Buffalo Bills. His second year out of Western North Carolina, pickup of 13. So Ratliff so far is 5 out of 7, John, but it's been sacked 3 times.
And I don't think to his fault. There's been a lot of pressure right up the middle. We saw Golston come through on the last series right up the center guard gap. Not much of a chance for Ratliff.
Here comes a flag and a call on the offense.
79. 5 yards, still first down.
It's on Jamon Meredith. You've been talking about that right guard spot with Davin Joseph injured and Ted Larson moving over to center. Meredith, 5th-round draft pick of the Packers in 09, and you talked before about the teams he's been with, the Bills, the Lions, the Giants, the Steelers, and now for Greg Schiano. Maybe can help out on an offensive line that's been affected by a serious injury to one of Schiano's favorite players, Davin Joseph. Ratliff pressured. Chris Wilson from the linebacker spot. He's been a star this preseason for the Redskins.
Boy, and you can see why. He was there in a hurry. He was unblocked. They were going up top. They were going to try to take it deep. And Chris Wilson, before you know it, says hello to Brett Ratliff.
A free agent from Northwood College in Michigan. And now 15 yards needed. Moses Madu on second down. It'll be 3rd and long.
What you're seeing from the Redskins defensively, they're crowding the box. They're pressuring in the run front. They've got a lot of people up there. The best way to get people out of that is to throw up top on them, back them off a little bit. I think the Bucs need to come to that, back this defense off, and give Brett Ratliff some help out there. 3rd and 15, though. The problem is the Redskins aren't going to be up near the line of scrimmage. They're going to be playing coverage.
Michael Smith in the game for the Bucs. Low snap. Ratliff goes down. 4th sack of the game, and Brian Keel got to him.
Well, even when they do drop into coverage, the Bucs are getting beat up front right now. And this is a little bit, Chris, we've talked about a consistent theme. What bothers you a little bit about this roster is there's just not a ton of depth. And I think we've seen when the Bucs have played with their 2s and 3s, they haven't been real competitive. Their 1s have been extremely competitive throughout this preseason. Problem is, during the regular season, your 2s and 3s will see some time.
So Forbath, a good boot. He's been steady all night. Banks loses it, picks it up, and a nice special teams tackle inside the 15 by Jacob Cutrara, who has led the Bucs in preseason tackles. Cutrara, the former LSU star, free agent signed by the Bucs. A 50-yard punt from Kai Forbath. Michael Caden and Connor Barth handle the kicking duties and have that sewn up for the Bucs, but Kai Forbath, whether it's been punting or lining up for field goals throughout the preseason, has been terrific. Just punting tonight, but has handled it well.
Unfortunately for him, he's got 2 really good players in front of him, but again, he's auditioning for the rest of the league, and the way he's performed this preseason, I think someone would be wise to snatch him up.
Kirk Cousins wide open and complete. Dorson Boyce, the fullback. Darrell Young, who would be the starting fullback, injured and not playing tonight. There's a flag down. $20-yard gain, but let's check the penalty flag.
Holding, 73, offense. Half the distance to goal, replay, first down.
Adam Geddes, reserve guard, called for the infraction, so that'll negate a healthy gain.
I got to tell you, I just saw that stare from Mike Shanahan. Every time I see it, I still have nightmares. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He can give a stare that scares the heck out of anybody.
And, of course, all your years in Tampa Bay, playing for Shanahan in Denver, as Roy Halou carries across the 20-yard line. Halou in his second year was a 4th-round pick and a star out of Nebraska that did so well when Hightower went down with an injury last year. What about your time in Denver and Mike Shanahan? You certainly had success as he did there.
Those great times. You know, I think we think about what could have been. We hosted in 2005 the AFC Championship game, had the Pittsburgh Steelers in our house, and unfortunately let them get away. They went on to win the Super Bowl. But you see what makes him so successful. He's a perfectionist. He wants things right. I think more than anything, as an offensive play caller, he's as good as it gets. He attacks opposing players and gets after them.
Here's Halou again. Stays in bounds. Gets up to the 30-yard line.
Another thing he believes in is competition, and we see that at his running back spot. We've seen Royster play. Now he brings Halou in. He's got a stable of them, and a lot of that's a message that, hey, you're not on your game. Whoever has the hot hand's going to play.
Another Redskin first down. Both of these teams, John, the Redskins and the Bucs, stressing competition and depth. That's something they wanted this preseason as they move forward. And at running back, Halou battling Hightower and Royster, and he carries again. See if the Bucs can slow him down. Rennie Curran eventually got to him. And, of course, Alfred Morris, as we mentioned, from Florida Atlantic, a 6th-round draft pick who could be the starter on opening day when the Redskins face the Saints.
And I would tell you that the Redskins are probably a year or two further along in the process than the Bucs in terms of having that depth. This was a team that lacked depth last season. They've got it more so this season. The problem with these guys is that division they play in, the NFC East. You got the Giants, the Super Bowl champions, Philly, and Dallas. It's tough. They could be better this year and not have much of a better record.
Cousins to Josh Morgan. Another Redskin first down. Yeah, we'll talk about Robert Griffin III and how that changes things after Mike Shanahan tried Donovan McNabb and Rex Grossman. But meanwhile, John, even the reserves, you talk about some of the defensive players for the Bucs in that secondary. There's
RG3,
Baylor star.
Bigger. You know, one thing, sometimes you go down on the field and you don't really know what you're going to see. This is the first time I've seen him in person, bigger than I expected.
Evan Royster with the carry this time. They gave up a lot to get Robert Griffin. Of course, the Browns were in the mix there. But in his third year, Mike Shanahan knew he needed a quarterback. There's his preseason numbers.
He got an electric one. I mean, this guy, he's a world-class speed at the quarterback position, but also has a great pocket presence. I'm excited to see his development.
And Evan Royster now to the 36 of Tampa Bay. Sean Baker from his safety spot.
You see this zone running scheme. What they do, they just kind of probe you. They probe you, they stretch you out. They're going to find that gap. And they're finding a lot of them with these backups for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the front seven.
Baker in a battle to make the roster. Friday the cut. Down to 53. Open across the middle. Niles Paul, a converted receiver to the tight end spot. Fred Davis the starter, also Logan Paulson. Is Chris Cooley a guy who's available? Is that somebody the Buccaneers should take a look at?
You know, you look at their tight end position, you got Dallas Clark, who when healthy is a beast out there. And that's been the same for Chris Cooley. You've got Luke Stalker, who again has battled injuries. And behind that, Danny Noble, an undrafted free agent. So my answer would be yes, you should certainly look at him. And nice play by Myron Lewis in the backfield of the Redskins.
Defense on Roy Halou.
But I think it would definitely be worth a look. And remember, Mark Dominic has done this, not so much with free agents, the ilk of Chris Cooley, but guys like LeGarrette Blount were picked up in what they call their second draft, and they'll be scanning. They don't feel like this roster is complete by any means, and you know, their history says that it's not.
Something we'll ask Mark Dominic, general manager of the Bucs, about in the second half. On 3rd down and 5 from the 32 of Tampa Bay. Open and complete, but short of the first down. It's a good tackle by Leonard Johnson to make sure that Terrence Austin could not advance the football.
Leonard Johnson, a guy we've talked about throughout the preseason. We've talked about him because he's been around the football. He's made plays, and he's a guy, a local guy from Tampa. And this is what you have to do. They're going to catch balls, but you got to close, and you got to be a sure tackler. He plays off. He knows where the sticks are. Drives well on the ball. Good tackle. Good play by Leonard Johnson, who's really impressed me this preseason.
46-yard try. The Clearwater native from Largo High. It's a team game, but in a personal battle for a roster spot with Myron Lewis.
That's a 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning.
We've hit the 2-minute warning. Billy Cundiff lining up for a field goal to try to add to the Redskins' lead. We'll have more from FedEx Field in just a moment. Along with John Lynch, Chris Myers, glad you're watching the Buccaneers in the preseason as we wrap it up. 13-0 Washington. Try to add to it with Billy Cundiff, who's been good so far. 2 for 2 for Washington. Bucs have manufactured a little offense. Greg Schiano probably doesn't want to show too much since they'll face the Redskins during the regular season. This field goal try from 46 yards. And off to the right.
They're already booing him in Washington.
Maybe there's some Raven fans. You know, Baltimore's not too far from here. Well, I should say where the Ravens play. We're in Landover, Maryland, technically. Danny Smith, one of the more energetic, enthusiastic special teams coaches. His unit does a great job. But last year with Graham Gano, they just missed far too many field goals, whether they were blocked or off the mark.
And Cundiff's a good kicker. He's not only a high percentage kicker, he's very good on the kickoffs, as we've seen tonight. Got a good leg on him. I think eventually he'll win these fans over in D.C.
Coming up at halftime, we'll have highlights and stats. Dave Worth will chat with Gerald McCoy, who After getting beat up a little bit that last preseason game, rested tonight, healthy and anxious, ready to go September 9th at home against the Panthers. All that's coming up at the half. Bucs have not been across midfield in this game. And there's another sack. 5 times the Redskins have got to Brett Ratliff. It was Darian Scott this time.
And you look at the left guard there, Wynn. I mean, that's just a whiff, and that's not fair to Brett Ratliff, but that's the reality of playing this position, particularly in the 4th preseason game. You don't have your starters up there, and that's the depth or lack thereof that is of concern to me if you're a Bucs fan.
False start, 79. 5 yards, still second down.
Second call on Jamon Meredith, getting a workout. We'll ask Mark Dominic about Chris Cooley, if that's somebody, he's a free agent, so he can openly discuss that. Josh Freeman, 18 of 34 in the preseason so far. Ratliff goes to Michael Smith, who was hit hard at the 33-yard line. The Bucs have all 3 of their timeouts. Redskins have 2. Third and 11. Complete. That's Sammy Strotter up across the 45-yard line. And a timeout, Tampa Bay.
Good adjustment by Mike Sullivan, the offensive coordinator. If your guys aren't going to protect out front, you better get the ball out of your quarterback's hands. They've done it the last 2 plays, and it's worked out well. There's Mike Sullivan, the new offensive coordinator who came from the New York Giants, was the quarterback coach, and I'd say he's done pretty well with a guy named Eli Manning. And Eli Manning, I know Eli, and he speaks very highly of him. He felt like he really raised his level of play through good fundamentals, and they're trying to bring that same package to Josh Freeman. And if you're a Tampa fan, you sure hope the results are similar.
A 12-yard pickup on the connection from Ratliff to Strotter.
And look at ball out. When people are bringing pressure, you can't block them up front. Get the ball out of your hands. Not in the prevent defense are the Redskins, but given a little more cushion, and so utilize that cushion and get positive yards, at least get yourself in position for a field goal.
Mike Sullivan has not been a play caller in the NFL yet. This will be his first opportunity this upcoming season.
And that's always we talk about the Bucs secondary, and can it be a strength? Absolutely, but you got some ifs, and the same thing with Mike Sullivan. We'll see as a play caller, does he have that knack? I know he worked under a great one in the New York Giants in Kevin Gilbride, but there's something different about you being the guy calling it.
John, they're under review. Of course, we're under 2 minutes anyway, so it's an official upstairs booth review. And they're checking on the catch, I would assume. I'm not sure why, but Mike Sullivan, Greg Schiano, and Brett Ratliff hoping to get some points on the board before the half. Forbath has kicked from beyond 50 this year and made a field goal. Chris Connor Barth had a 56-yarder. I saw him in the lobby of the team hotel today. He said, I had a 55-yarder in the regular season. In college, I've had a 70-yarder that was in practice. They're checking the spot on the Strotter catch. So we know it's a catch. It's just where they want to place it for the first down or not. Sammy Strotter, the 7th-round draft pick out of Oregon State, does have a kickoff return for a touchdown. Never had a punt run back, but he's played in 31 NFL games, and that slot receiver, but with the depth at the position, John, getting a chance tonight with Tyquan Underwood to show he belongs.
And so much in the NFL, your opportunities, can you stay healthy? Sammy's a guy who's struggled with injuries. He's a smaller guy. He lit it up his first year, and I remember doing the preseason game saying this guy's going to add a lot to this team. Again, when healthy, he's been good, but he's having fun out there telling all the guys.
Let's take a look again at the spot and why they're reviewing this. Maybe why it's taken so long.
And you watch. His backside's down right at that 46-yard line. That looks about where the ball is.
First down, Tampa Bay.
And it's a first down. Are you concerned about the replacement officials opening the regular season on September the 9th?
Yes.
You don't want to expound on that? I don't think
can nobody find a broadcaster?
Nobody can find you.
Right.
Somebody had a suggestion and said if any players or owners get fined, take the money towards the fine and pay it to the referees who are not at work so that you can get the regular officials back in. However, we can solve things. On 1st and 10, players are concerned as well, and I'm sure coaches are.
And these guys are trying, these replacement officials.
Yeah, they're just called in to do the job, and this is a first-time experience at this level for them, for many of them.
That's right.
We'll look at it one more time.
And right here, I mean, sometimes this might have happened with a regular official, but things like this, and I talked about it last week, but aside from the safety issue, which is the most important issue, it's the logistics of the games. Games have been going longer in the preseason because these guys don't know all the logistics of when you go to commercial, when you come back, how you go under the hood. And remember, once you go under the hood, everything's reviewable. Now, we just waited 2.5 minutes for a call. They go back out, they set play, and now they're coming back here. And, you got it's of concern to me, to say the least.
You talk about the speed of a game for a rookie player. Well, for an official at the NFL level, now they're checking the clock with the spot. When we get to the regular season, and places are going crazy and sellout crowds and games are on the line, you got to be on it.
Look, negotiations are tough, but I think this league's really at a crossroads. There's been a lot of bad publicity about head trauma and things of that nature, and to play with fire because, God forbid, someone were to get hurt and an official miss something or a star quarterback.
Timeout, so we'll start the clock on the snap.
Just not worth a risk worth taking. And I think, look, negotiations get tough, but they should have been working on this 6 months ago, knowing that it's a pivotal and seminal moment, I think, in the league's history.
53 seconds remaining in the first half. Here is Ratliff. Floats it, and did he intercept it? Yes, he did. Jordan Bernstein came up with it. 7th-round draft pick from Iowa. Took advantage of the floater from Ratliff with pressure in his face.
And pressure's been the key word. Brett Ratliff's not used to be in there. He's been getting beat down. Got some time, feels some pressure there. An errant throw. Sammy Strotter running clean. They're playing that two-man, two deep safeties with underneath coverage. You can't step into your throw, and balls flutter, and that's when picks happen in this league. Tips and overthrows, and there's an example of it right there.
6 Redskins rushing Ratliff, and there were 5 around the football when it was intercepted. Redskins have 2 timeouts, unless the officials are going to stop and review things some more. And they're making sure that he came up cleanly. I don't know if you can tell from that angle, John. And you know that every turnover automatically reviewed. Cousins throws this one out of bounds, so obviously they said, let's move it along here. It's the final preseason game.
That's right.
Got guys that are playing out here. Like Najee Good, the valuable game experience for the rookie.
A guy like Myron Lewis is a guy, I'm watching throughout this game. He's got all the tools, as we talked for, a specimen for the corner position. For whatever reason, it doesn't translate to the field. This is great game action for him to take advantage of these reps and try to work out that technique issues that he sometimes has.
Leonard Hankerson, former University of Miami star, with the catch. Redskins use a timeout. They'll have 1 remaining. Coming up in the half, we'll hear from Gerald McCoy. General Manager Mark Dominic will join us live in the booth to talk about Greg Schiano so far, the man hired to turn the Bucs around, improve on the 4 wins. Also Dale Earnhardt Jr., who led in points and is already in NASCAR's chase for the Sprint Cup Championship, which winds up down in Homestead, Florida. He's a big Redskin fan. Is here in attendance.
Please reset the game clock at 34 seconds.
He was one who said right away when the Redskins acquired Robert Griffith, longtime fan, said, now we have something to be excited about as a Redskin fan. The Redskins gave up 3 first-round picks and a 2. Remember, they swapped in that first position to move up to get Griffith. And then in the 4th round, drafted Cousins, who's throwing here. And nice connection. That's Roy Halou down to the Tampa Bay 30. And another timeout. Washington will use its last.
Look at this. They're going to bring pressure. If you're Keith Tandy, you got to know you don't have help inside, so you better keep what you call inside leverage. He lets Halou get to the inside. There's nobody in there. That's a rookie mistake that Keith Tandy's hearing about from Greg Schiano right now. Greg Schiano says, you may have done it that way in West Virginia, but we don't do it that way here.
And Tandy, you look at Ahmad Black, you talked about Asante and Cody Grimm. Those are the backups to Rondé Barber moving to safety and Mark Barron. How many safeties do you think that the Bucs end up keeping with the roster cut Friday?
I think 4 to 5 is the number that you would keep. And, you know, the way I see it right now, you've got the 2 starters in Barron and Barber as locks. Ahmad Black probably a lock. He's played well enough this preseason. I believe Cody Grimm should be. He gives you experience that if anything happened to these guys, you know he can go in and play well. It comes down to a guy like Tandy and Asante in my mind.
Cousins on first down. That's Halou inside the 20. First down, Redskins. Leonard Johnson kept him from going out of bounds. Remember, they're out of timeouts. A 17-yard gain. Cousins to stop the clock with 12 seconds from the 14-yard line.
Now, if you're the Redskins, you don't have time to throw the ball and keep it in bounds. So you got to take shots at the end zone. There's that face I'm telling you about. He's mad at somebody telling Roy Halou to get out of bounds, to get out of bounds. See, that face gets red. That's not a good thing.
Good play by the Bucs. Leonard Johnson, who you've been talking about tonight in that battle with Myron Lewis, to make sure that he did not get out of bounds.
Now this leaves you, but you got to take a shot at the end zone or get out of bounds, or the half's over.
Cody Grimm is in at safety. Cousins floats one, end zone, incomplete. Josh Morgan was back in the corner. There's a flag down inside the 5-yard line. 6 seconds remain on the clock.
Pass interference, 23, defense. Ball replaces, final foul.
The call, John, is on Myron Lewis.
When we talk about technique issues with Myron Lewis, as a DB, the one thing you can't do is panic. It happens earlier in the route. He uses his hands too much. He's got all the speed he needs. He's got all the length. You got to do your dirty work early. You got to stay square, and those are things he struggles with.
Timeout, Tampa Bay. It's your second charge timeout.
Greg Schiano wants a timeout after the call. I don't know if he agreed with the call. We didn't clearly see it, but any contact beyond the 5 yards with the ball in the air, I don't know if he's discussing that or not. But the Redskins have a 1st and goal from the 4. They have no timeouts. 6 seconds remain. Billy Cundiff, 2 out of 3 in the field goal department. Touchdown run from Evan Royster. 5 sacks on Brett Ratliff, who's been the Tampa Bay quarterback from the start.
We saw Mike Shanahan talking with his son, Kyle Shanahan, the offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins. There's Kyle.
Had success with the Houston Texans calling plays. Halou is the running back. Cousins fakes. Incomplete. 1 second showing on the clock. So here comes the field goal unit.
You look at this coverage. This is what's called the picket fence. You set a picket fence at the goal line. and then you adjust accordingly. They run the picket fence, and it works out for them.
Picket fence, I think of Gene Hackman and Hoosiers. Timeout, Tampa Bay.
Dennis Hopper going to run the picket fence.
This will be a 22-yard field goal try. And I'm not sure what he's upset about.
I think maybe he believes that the clock should have run out. I think he's wondering, how do they stop it with 1 second?
Well, all you got to do is hit the switch. I think he's got a legitimate argument watching the development of that play. You were sitting up here with your stopwatch, and it was close. It's Gerald McCoy in the background. He has his game face on. That was one thing Greg Schiano told us when we sat with him, John, about knowing the rules of the game. And remember, when you and I went to that referee seminar for the NFL a couple of years ago, they know the rules, but then there are so many variations and new challenges or new twists to rules that you got to stay on top of it.
They change each and every year.
So here's Cundiff, the ex-Raven. He's 3 out of 4. And despite the frustration of Greg Schiano and the clock operator, it's a 16-0 halftime lead. Let's head down to the field with Dave Work.
Okay, we got Greg Schiano. What can you do in the second half to get Brett Ratliff and the offense on track a little bit?
Well, we're not running the football at all, so with any effectiveness, so we got to try to do that, but we got to protect them, and we got to get rid of the ball more quickly as well. It's a combination of things.
The defense has been out there a lot. Any signs of fatigue?
Well, certainly. There's not a lot of guys playing, so we need to sustain some drives and give them a rest.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, Greg Schiano, not a real happy guy right now. Upset at the officials and upset at that score at halftime. Chris?
Thanks, Dave.
I think he hit it perfectly. They need to give more time to Brett Ratliff. Brett Ratliff needs to get it out of his hands. And as a defense, Washington's taking it to him. Washington's been playing some starter level quality. We're seeing the difference in depth in these two teams, in my mind, in this first half.
Greg Schiano, who talks about discipline and physicality, and I don't know that the Buccaneers have showed enough of that. Shut out. Their offense has barely showed up here. Redskins lead at the half, 16-0. Gerald McCoy chats with Dave straight ahead.
It's the moon over FedEx Field. Welcome back. We're about to get started with the second half. The Bucs trailing the Redskins 16-0 in the final preseason tune-up for both teams. Let's go upstairs now to Chris Myers and John Lynch. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Dave. And John, as excited as we were when the starters of the Bucs outplayed those of the Patriots in the third preseason game, in the battle of the reserves, not looking good. 38 yards total offense, as Dave was talking about. So what does that tell you? It tells you what you've been saying all along. This is not a deep football team. The depth of concern.
And people say, well, why does that matter? Our starters are going to play. Well, the reality in a 16-game season, this is brutal and violent stuff. You're going to need to play a lot of people. And the best teams are the teams that have depth throughout their roster. Greg Schiano knows it. He inherited this team. Mark Dominic knows it. And that's why, as a result, we're going to see guys fighting, but we're also going to see probably some guys that aren't here right now on the field be a part of this opening day roster on September 9th.
You talked at the beginning about some battle for roster spots, certainly at receiver with Tyquan Underwood, Sammy Stroughter. We've seen a little bit of them. And in the secondary, Myron Lewis maybe falling a little behind Leonard Johnson in that battle.
Myron Lewis, Leonard Johnson's a guy who's ready to play right now. I tell you what could help Myron Lewis is that E.J. Biggers is out with that foot injury. They may keep a corner a little longer than they might have. And I think he's a risk worth taking. He's got so much ability and potential. Potential's a bad word in this league. As coaches say, potential gets you fired. But he's a guy I'd want to keep developing and keep because the light, you never know when that light's going to go on, and he could have an extremely bright future if it ever does go on. We'll talk with General Manager Mark Dominic. He's going to join us live here in the second half to discuss Friday's roster cuts from 75 players down to 53. Is there interest in Chris Cooley, the veteran tight end released by the Redskins, who's now a free agent? Kai Forbath, will teams be calling to make a trade, who's now shown he can punt in the NFL, along with kick field goals. In the meantime,
Bucs defense will get tested first in the second half. Aldrick Robinson from the end zone for Washington. He's got room and tackled from behind. Otherwise, he might still be running. James Rodgers, backup corner from Michigan. Kirk Cousins got the start. Played the entire first half for Washington as they rest their starter Robert Griffin III and then Rex Grossman, who is listed as the backup, although could be challenged over time by Cousins, who remains in the game. And Roy Halou Jr. picked up some running room after Evan Royster carried the load in the opening quarter. Cousins with time, flips it. Incomplete. Sean Baker, the closest Buccaneer in the area, backup safety.
And Kirk Cousins has had a lot of time. When you run the ball effectively, it makes a defense anchor down a little bit, sit on their heels. And as a result, he's got a lot of time to throw. No one was open. Good job on coverage by the Buccaneers, but plenty of time for Kirk Cousins.
From the 30. Roy Halou. Bucs shoring up some holes from the running game that Greg Schiano was upset about in the first half.
And here's the key in this league, as so many times is they've done their job on first and second down, but can you get off the field on third down? And we come back to it all the time. I come back down to it all the time. But it comes down to pressure. This is where you have to be able to get after the quarterback. You give these guys time, they can even convert third downs. But you get after them, 3rd and 9's a tough convert unless you're Drew Brees down in New Orleans.
Pressure picked up, pass complete. And a good-looking throw to former Buccaneer Desmond Briscoe, who led Tampa Bay in receiving touchdowns last year.
And there it is, plenty of time. And when you have time, a guy like Cousins, these guys are too good. Nice pocket for him. Throws a strike to Desmond Briscoe. Nice execution by the Washington Redskins.
So Rodgers is in at one corner for Tampa Bay. Brandon McDonald picked up just a couple of weeks ago, the other corner. And they run the ball to Roy Halou. And a good tackle made by Sean Baker. But that was back into the safety area.
And if Sean Baker doesn't make that tackle, Halou's hitting his head on the goalpost because there was nobody else on the field. That's what you're called on to do at the safety position. You are the last line of defense. A linebacker doesn't make a play, no one really says anything, but a secondary player, a safety, doesn't make a play, and he's out the door. And a good tackle by Sean Baker.
Cousins has it. Sideline Austin. Slips a tackle. Run out of bounds.
You really see how it, we heard Greg Schiano prior to halftime talking about the struggles on offense. We aren't running the football, and as a result, it's tough to pass the football. Well, the Redskins have run the ball effectively. There they call the bootleg off the run action. And Kirk Cousins has all day. They get a positive gain and another first down.
Pickup of 7. And in the battle of the backups here, the Redskins continue to dominate. Cousins. Intercepted. Sean Baker held on to it. Juggled it, but came up with the pick.
Sean Baker's been impressive. Made a couple touchdown-saving tackles. Now he comes up with the big interception. He's getting valuable playing time, trying to make the most of it.
Cousins from the pocket, picked off after it was tipped by Rennie Curran. Of his opportunity coming up with the deflection of the Cousins pass.
Well, we said it earlier, tips and overthrows. Nice job by Rennie Curran. Getting back in coverage, reading the quarterback's eyes and tipping it. We've seen it from Rondé Barber with Mark Barron last week.
4th interception by the Buccaneer defense this preseason. On first down, Ratliff for Underwood. An excellent coverage, and it's intercepted. He stayed in bounds. Richard Crawford beat Tyquan Underwood to the football.
I'd be surprised if you don't get a challenge from Greg Schiano when it comes to possession. Although it looks like there is clear possession, but that's really Tyquan Underwood. That's your job right there. You're going to take a shot deep. At least, but it's got to be an incomplete pass. And do a better job of competing and fighting for that football.
The official was right there, John, and Underwood's listed at 6'1", and Crawford's about 5'11", so you've got the height advantage. You got to go get that football.
Well, they talk about high pointing the football. Go up and get it. And I like that play call. I talked about that earlier. They're going to crowd the line of scrimmage. The best thing to do is back them off. The way you do that is to take a shot. But you've got to know as a quarterback, if I'm going to throw it deep, my receiver at least bit is going to knock that down and live to see second down.
Automatic review on any turnover, one of the new rules instituted in the league this year, so they double-checked it and good to go. Redskins, well, here comes a flag.
80, 5 yards, still first down.
Call on backup tight end Richard Quinn. So 1st and 15 for Washington. Buccaneers' best scoring opportunity, and they turn it over. Here comes Roy Halou. Sean Baker, who's been everywhere with the tackle.
Sean Baker playing good football. Again, another guy who's an undrafted free agent. Getting an opportunity, and it's what you make of those opportunities. It may not happen for him on the Bucs. We don't know that, but if not, there's a lot of teams watching film, and he can end up on a roster or a practice squad. He's certainly practice squad eligible. You just got to keep fighting. When you do good things on the field, they'll take notice.
This is Halou, who has room. Across the 35, all the way up to the 37-yard line. First down and 10 after a 9-yard gain. I want to talk to you about how Rondé Barber is making that transition to safety. I'm sure you've chatted with him. I know some people just assume, hey, he's a defensive back, should be able to handle it, but all those years playing the slot in that corner spot. Cousins to throw. This is caught at the 15-yard line by Brandon Banks. They could have used Rondé Barber on that play.
They sure could have, and I tell you, yes, RG3's the guy here in Washington, but you got to love that from Kirk Cousins. That was an aggressive, confident-looking throw. He put it out there to a fast receiver. Go ahead, let it go. Go out there, see if you can overthrow him. Brandon Banks says, "Nuh-uh, you can't." Good execution by Kirk Cousins and Brandon Banks as they hook up on a long.
48 yards, John, and this is after Cousins was intercepted on a deflection. Set up at scoring range as Roy Halou carries. And Halou, touchdown. A 15-yard run.
And it looks like the Redskins are playing at a different speed than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the field right now. The Redskins look crisp. They are dictating to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers what they're going to do. They're playing at a faster pace. And again, we keep hitting the point, but it speaks to a team that's a little further along in the developmental stage of a new coach. Mike Shanahan in year 3 has put his imprint on this roster. Greg Schiano hasn't had that opportunity, and where it shows up most is at the bottom half of the roster.
Scoring play reviewed and given the okay from upstairs. Halou, a starter for much of last year with Hightower's injury, and Tim Hightower still hoping to get healthy for the regular season opener. The extra point. And the Redskins add add to their lead. It's now 23-0. A 75-yard drive, just over 2 minutes, capped by that guy. The Bucs being shut out here at FedEx. On a touchdown from Roy Halou in his second year, 10 carries, 68 yards on the Ram Truck scoreboard. A lot of that covered on the big pass play. Kirk Cousins completing to Brandon Banks. Heard the Redskin fight song. As you were saying, John, during the break, every team should have a fight song.
It's a good one. It's fun watching this fourth preseason game. This place is fired up because they're putting points on the board, but it helps to have a fight song like that. I even singing it up here.
And Shipley's going to stay in the end zone and down it. Somewhere Captain Fear is firing the cannons and singing about the Bucs regular season opener September 9th at Raymond James against Carolina. But more football to be played here. I want to get John's thoughts on Rondé Barber's switch to safety in just a moment.
I think he's going to have some words with Robert Hughes, the rookie. Robert Hughes, the rookie from Notre Dame. Jordan Shipley, he's intent on bringing this thing out. And Robert Hughes, he kind of won't even look at it. He's, come on, man, I'm trying to make a roster, and I got a rookie telling me to stay in the end zone. But probably a good decision by Hughes.
Tyquan Underwood on one side, Shipley on the other, John, at 1st and 10 for Ratliff. Madu, the running back. And that is, we just talked about Robert Hughes, fullback, former Notre Dame tailback, in a battle for a roster spot with Eric Lorig listed as the starting fullback. Ratliff from Butte Junior College went there after Aaron Rodgers. And then at Utah, went to college there after Alex Smith. A couple of guys who were in the playoffs last year at the NFL level. Madu. And let's go down to the sideline. A surprise guest. I was going to get your opinion on Rondé Barber playing at safety, but I'll let Rondé question you as he gets ready for that 200th consecutive start, September 9th at Raymond James. Rondé, you're on with John Lynch. Go ahead, caller.
What's up, guys? How are you doing up there?
What's up, Rondé? First of all, I got to apologize. I tried to put you in year 17 a couple weeks ago.
It's all right.
It's 16.
I understand. I'm only 1+ you right now.
I just know it was a long time ago. That first game you played versus Arizona, and what a career you've had, buddy.
Why you got to bring that one up? That was probably my worst
moment. It's been good since then.
Yes, it has.
Ratliff's pass incomplete. The fans, they're not cheering for Rondé, although they would be if we were in Tampa Bay. Rondé, glad that you're back for another season. How close were you to stepping aside and retiring?
It was a tough decision, to be honest with you. Yeah, I wrangled over it for a long, long time. Had the opportunity to sit down with the new coach and the GM, and I walked away from that meeting pretty unsure still. But Mark did a good job recruiting me over the next couple of weeks. I was on vacation, and told me basically that they needed me. That we had some question marks on defense, especially, and they needed some leadership. So I decided to come back, and it was a couple of weeks into that coach told me he was going to move me to safety, and I was fine with that as well.
Tyquan Underwood on 3rd down, Rondé with the catch.
Rondé, you talk about that transition to safety, and I know, having tried it at another position myself, moving to linebacker, the famous line from Bill Belichick, you're a Hall of Fame safety, but you're an awful linebacker.
Yeah, I think it's easier to move back in the defense than it is to move forward.
But I can tell you from watching, it seemed like things clicked last week. You got some extended game action, and it sure looked good to me. You look comfortable versus Tom Brady and the New England Patriots.
Yeah, that was definitely it. You can practice it all you want, but when you get some real snaps, it helps a whole lot. And I think that's what you saw last week.
We'll continue with Rondé Barber, John Lynch, a couple of future Hall of Famers. You're watching Buccaneers television from FedEx Field. Don't go away. Buccaneers with a first down near midfield, the third quarter. John Lynch, Chris Myers down on the field with Rondé Barber. And Rondé, let me ask you about what excites you most about this team. There's a lot of uncertainty, even though we've had these 4 preseason games with Greg Schiano and some assistant coaches, some new players. So what do fans have to look forward to September 9th?
We're working on a lot of new things. This is for anybody that's followed the Bucs for for as long as I've been here, for a number of years. This is a completely different team. Organization really is restructured. I mean, we're playing a completely new defense on our side of the ball, and I'm really the only person in the building still that has any connection to the old Bucs. So we're really trying to redefine ourselves. I think Coach has done a great job of instituting his mentality and his way of doing things onto this football team. And he has a saying, the sooner we buy in, the sooner we win. And I think through this preseason, we've done a pretty good job of buying in. It's not showcasing itself tonight, unfortunately. But I think the guys are really starting to get comfortable with how he wants things done.
Yeah, including Jordan Shipley, who just made a first down catch. And here's a nice throw and catch, Tyquan Underwood with a flag down at the 20-yard line, where it looks like the Bucs will have another first down.
Hey, Rondé, tell us a little bit about Mark Barron, who you're playing next to. I think the world of him from college. Again, last week, it looked like things kind of clicked for him after this penalty. Just give us your scouting report on Mark Barron.
He had a kind of a slow start to camp. He was nagged by a hamstring and had a toe issue, so he didn't really get much opportunities. But as the weeks have gone on, especially last week where he too got some extended playing time, you could see that he's a natural, man. He brings a lot to the table in terms of his physicalness. I've been really impressed with the way he's gone onto the practice field and in the meeting rooms and picked everything up. To me, he doesn't seem like a rookie. I know once the season starts, I don't think he's going to play like one either.
Ask Rondé to stay with us here after the penalty declined by the Bucs. Pass interference, best scoring chance for Tampa Bay all night. And here comes a flag. 7:27 to go in the third.
78. 5 yards.
This call going against the Bucs and Jamarcus Hardrick. Rondé, you've seen a lot of quarterbacks in the opposition over the years. Can you give us kind of an update on where Josh Freeman is? He looks a little bit, he lost some weight, the hair. He's dealing with the new system, and there's a lot on his shoulders.
Absolutely. We're expecting Josh to be a big part of what's new in Tampa Bay. Obviously, he's learning a new system, but he has to assume a leadership role. He's in that time of his career where he needs to start being the guy that this team can count on. I think he prepared himself in the offseason. You mentioned the weight. His commitment is definitely there, and it's nice to see him starting to assume that leadership role. He did it in the locker room before this game. He's a captain now. He's going to be at the front of the stretch because Davin got hurt, unfortunately. But I think that's good for him. This team needs him to play well, like he did 2 years ago when we were a 10-win football team.
Darn, Rondé, you go ahead and play this year, but let me tell you something. You're gonna have a nice transition into the booth. You could be on my heels here.
Yeah, I did some practice with Chris in the offseason. So.
Yeah, he's ready. He's ready to go. The minute he wants to step from the field, let's see what Ratliff does as he floats one for Hughes, and it's incomplete. So, Rondé, can we assume, I hate before you even go out there for that 200th consecutive start, I know you were asked this last year, is this your last year? Do you look at it that way, or how will you assess that?
You know what, that's a great question. I've pretty much assumed that every year is my last year for the past couple of years. You get to be 37. I've had a bunch of great opportunities to continue to play for this team. They've wanted me back, and ultimately I've wanted to come back. So I can't call it right now. It's been up in the air, really, for the past couple of years, and I'll evaluate that when the season's over and see where I go from there.
All right, well, thanks, Rondé. Good luck the entire season.
Appreciate it, Chris. John, I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, buddy.
All right, and a week from Sunday against Cam Newton, Rondé will be busy. On 3rd and 15, pressure, Ratliff, end zone incomplete. He was talking about Mark, talking to him, meaning Mark Dominic, the general manager of the Bucs, who will join us shortly, talk about some of those big investments, Vincent Jackson, Carl Nixon, Dallas Clark, that you've been, and Eric Wright, raving about all preseason. It was Rondé, John, who said after the New England game, hey, let's not get all excited. It's a preseason game. We're doing better, but let's, we got a long way to go here. Kind of not only telling the fans, but I think some of his teammates about that.
Yeah, Rondé was the guy with Raheem Morris and Mike Tomlin. We used to always have a tip, make Rondé Barber love you, because he's tough to please, but he's really a good level head. Never gets too high, never gets too low. And that's why a guy like that lasts so long in this league.
Now, I think Kai Forbath is going to have a long career in the NFL if he gets the chance, and someone will give him one. A 43-yard kick, had a 50-plus yarder the week before, and the Buccaneers are on the board. Here's battles. Which game you want to go to? Tampa Bay Buccaneers individual game tickets are on sale now for as low as $30. You can go to Buccaneers.com to pick up tickets. There are special packages put together for that opener. Discounts on concessions and free parking in select areas September 9th. Rondé Barber's 200th consecutive start, longest running at at that position at corner as he moves over to safety. And of course, Cam Newton of the Panthers, a division battle as the Buccaneers kick off the regular season in Greg Schiano's first regular season game as a head coach in the NFL. Bucs come in with a 2-1 preseason record, same with the Redskins. And finally on the board, Kai Forbath, who's been punting, kicking off, making the field goal. Aldrick Robinson for Washington. Gets out across the 25-yard line. That last drive for the Bucs, 55 yards. They had 38 yards in total offense prior to that. So in one drive, they eclipsed that before the 43-yard field goal.
And I think they got a little rhythm going offensively. You know, actually on the deep pass to Tyquan Underwood that was intercepted, sometimes a pass like that can have an effect. It backs a defense off, and it looked like they were the aggressor that last series as opposed to the rest of the game, Washington really being the aggressor.
Ratliff has gone the entire game at quarterback for Tampa Bay. Cousins for the Redskins, and Roy Halou runs into his own man and then some Buccaneers. Frank Ocam wrapped him up. Jonathan Crompton now coming in at quarterback, the one-time Buccaneer. He was just cut this week and then re-signed by the Washington Redskins.
He was re-signed and, cut or re-signed when Chris Cooley was released. That was the roster spot. And, you know, I look around this stadium, more Chris Cooley jerseys than anybody. This was a very popular player, but that's the reality of this league.
And they give to Brandon Banks. And look out! Cody Grimm saved a touchdown. Banks, one of the fastest players, not only on the Redskins, but in the NFL. That's 2 weeks in a row. Grimm, remember, caught up with Jeff Dempson in New England to keep him out of the end zone last week.
Well, I asked Rondé Barber before the game, I said, tell me something. Cody looks faster than I remember him prior to the knee injury, and he said, you know what, he's lost about 10 pounds and it's showing up. He went after a world-class sprinter last week, and Jeff Dempson brought him down and just went after Brandon Banks. And granted, he had angles, but that's impressive by Cody Grimm and will help his bid in making this team.
And Halou Jr. near another Redskin first down after a 43-yard gain on the clever play to Brandon Banks. So the Redskins with Robert Griffin and Rex Grossman, the veteran, likely to be the number 2 until Kirk Cousins develops and showed us something tonight.
Looks like Rex Grossman's going to have to hold him off. Kirk Cousins looks very far along in his development as an NFL quarterback. Rex Grossman, on his behalf, was very sharp last week, 8 of 8 with a perfect passer rating.
Under 5 minutes to go here in the third. Crompton keeps and throws complete to Richard Quinn down near the 11-yard line. Crompton last year in this game, in the final preseason game, was 12 of 22, had 149 yards and a touchdown for the Buccaneers. He was their backup quarterback.
I remember he was lighting it up to Ed Gant, who was the star of the show here.
Just released this week. Rennie Curran, the injured player for the Buccaneers. One of the backup linebackers trying to make this team, the free agent from Georgia.
I think Rennie Curran has been playing every defensive snap, special teams, and he's what you call winded right now.
We'll talk with Mark Dominic, general manager of the Bucs, coming up here in just a little bit live on the broadcast. More than 20 players trimmed from the roster on Friday as every team has to get down to 53.
Actually, you got to see what you hit, kids at home. We talk about all this. There's one way to eliminate it. See what you hit. Keep your head up. Rennie Curran kind of dips his head there and pays for it.
Halou with another carry. Talking about Dale Earnhardt Jr., NASCAR driver. Of course, the Hans device after the tragedy when Dale Earnhardt died at Daytona. Quickly, NASCAR adapted to safer barriers at tracks and driver conditions, and now they're talking to the Simpson folks about helping with helmets in football for safer conditions on hits. On blows to the head. This is Halou. Touchdown. His second of the game.
Well, I've played on these teams that Mike Shanahan's coached. I've played against him. They test the integrity of your defense because they're going to keep running the ball. They're going to keep probing. They're going to keep looking for those holes, and that zone system stretches the defense. It gets you running side to side, and then that running back puts his foot into the ground. And they've certainly done a nice job of doing that here tonight.
A 6-yard touchdown run from the second-year back out of Nebraska, Roy Halou. And the extra point makes it 30-3 Redskins. 3:43 to go in the third quarter. Halou with 90 yards rushing in this game. And he was a guy who had been battling injury. Probably saw Alfred Morris from Florida Atlantic lighted up in the preseason at running back. With Tim Hightower recovering from injury. And Evan Royster getting a lot of work here in the first half.
Anybody knows that. Competition, you see your competitors that you're vying, yes, they're teammates, but you're vying for reps. And Evan Royster comes out, plays well. Roy Halou says, let me get my shot.
Plenty of weather, of course, as you know, with Hurricane Isaac. Tampa not getting the worst of it. Some rain and wet stuff, but thank goodness. And you can check in with Chief Meteorologist Jim Van Fleet for the latest on any tropical storms, hurricanes, and the latest weather. His latest forecast on 10 News or at WTSP.com. Jim Van Fleet from Tampa Bay's Weather Authority, 10 News. And if you like music, Jim Van Fleet in the rain. He's quite a musician. Singing in the rain, singing the blues, and keeping you up to date on 10 News.
And prayers and thoughts to those folks in New Orleans that once again are experiencing tough weather down there, that they would be as safe as they could be. Everybody in that area.
Redskins scored early on field goals to build a 6-0 lead. The running game took over. Pressure on Brett Ratliff all night. Sacked 5 times, threw 1 interception. Kai Forbath has been the best offensive product for Tampa Bay tonight with his 43-yard field goal. Shipley is going to down it again. You know, John, that's the question. I'm sure fans, this may be their only shot to show what they can do, and you got to play percentages sometimes. So you can't run it out if it's that deep in the end zone.
You can't, but sometimes you do, and the answer is if you do, you better make something good happen, or it's a negative against you. But every now and then you'll get that no, yes, if you make a play. And Shipley knows that his job's on the line. He's had a short audition period. He's trying to make something happen.
He's on the right side as a receiver. Did catch a pass in the last drive. Looks like we're going to get a call against the offense.
5 yards. Down remains 1.
Of course, Vincent Jackson and Mike Williams will be your starting receivers. And you have talked about this preseason, John, how certainly Vincent will make Mike Williams a better 2 receiver, but the depth, and we should get Aurelius Ben back for the regular season. That's what the Bucs were saying because of his knee injury. But at the top of the broadcast, those battling for secure roster spots. Pass is high and in the neighborhood of Shipley.
Brett Ratliff, he's going to be sore tomorrow. He continues to take licks, and you got to respect him. He continues to get up. But, you know, you talk about the depth issue with this team. One place they don't really have that issue is the wide receiver position. You see a lot of good players vying for 5 to 6 spots. And a guy like Tyquan Underwood's come out and made some things happen. Strotter made some things happen. Going to be tough decisions for Greg Schiano and Mark Dominic and their staff.
Ratliff's throw called in and pulled out of bounds Here's Danny Noble, who has moved up to the third tight end, the free agent from Toledo.
And I won't call him a lock, but they really like what he brings to the table. And it's really a position of need. You have Dallas Clark, but I think you want some insurance for a guy like Dallas Clark, who's been injured the last couple of years. You've got Luke Stocker, who's battled his own injuries. And then you needed someone to step up, and Danny Noble's done that. He's showed that at the point of attack on the line of scrimmage, he'll do a good job blocking, and he's a former wide receiver, so a capable receiver as well at the tight end position.
From their own 16, it's 3rd and 14 for the Bucs. And we're going to get a timeout, Tampa Bay.
Timeout, Tampa Bay. First timeout of the half. 30-second timeout.
John, it was interesting chatting with Rondé Barber when he talked about Josh Freeman stepping into a leadership role, leading the workout or the stretching. And we'll ask Mark Dominic about this. You talked about it last week. There's so many parts to the quarterback position, but at age 24, leadership, the body language, the way you carry yourself. It was big news with Cam Newton last year as a rookie, along with whatever you do on the field.
Well, I think more than body language and whatnot, there just comes a point where you got to understand, I may be young, I may be 24 years old, but I'm the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This has to become, in many ways, his team. And not just his team. Look, it's everyone's team. But he needs to be one of those leaders. He needs to be a vocal leader. He needs to be a leader in the way he prepares each and every day. His time is now. And it's hard for young players. You got to come out of your comfort zone, but that's part of leadership, and it's frankly part of that position more than any other in the NFL.
So Ratliff clapping his hands, trying to encourage this offense, and tipped away at the last moment, or it would have been a first down. David Jones making a nice play for the Redskins. Yeah, we might have, as we said, 5 rookie quarterbacks starting on opening day, as many as a dozen or so first or second year quarterbacks, or quarterbacks that are under the age of 25, starting when the regular season opens. So guys are being thrown into a leadership position a lot earlier than they used to be.
Yeah, they are. And, I think a lot of that is the fact that college programs throw the football a lot more. I'm interested to see a guy like Brandon Weeden, who I'll have week 1 in my duties with my network, and Robert Griffin, that come from these spread offenses. They're different offenses, and they're going to have challenges in and of itself.
Brandon Banks. It's up just short of the 40-yard line. He's played well tonight in an important game for him. Don't know if Moses Madu has showed enough tonight. We talked about players on the spot like Madu and Jordan Shipley. On a 54-yard punt, Kai Forbath has certainly done his job. Politics, protesters, parties, the Republican National Convention everywhere this week, and 10 News there along with them for you. Join Reggie and Heather after the game. Republican National Convention coverage live from the Forum, covering every angle of the RNC. Watch 10 News tonight right after the game. The Republican National Convention. A lot of folks from Washington that are down in the Tampa Bay area, maybe checking out the Redskins in between their duties as Baloo carries, and the third quarter winding down. When Greg Schiano opens the regular season, Claiborne and Bennett will be his ends, and Roy Miller and McCoy the inside tackles. And Roy Miller certainly in this defense can shine.
Yeah, and he has. I thought that was a position of concern, to say the least, with the loss of Brian Price. They traded him off to Chicago. But I tell you, he's looked good this preseason. Sometimes a different scheme fits your skills a little better, and Roy Miller's looked good. Now, I think they still need someone in their nickel package. When you get into that, he's a first and second down player that can control the middle. But you need someone to provide some heat opposite of Gerald McCoy, or Gerald McCoy's going to see every double team, and it's going to be hard for him to really shine.
And with Amobi Okoye's continuing knee problems, guys like E.J. Wilson may have to step up, George Johnson, but inside is what you're talking about. So for a guy like Gary Gibson or Frank Okam, they may be searching the waiver wire. We'll ask Mark Dominic about that. On third down, intercepted. That's the second of the game for Sean Baker, who goes out of bounds inside Redskin territory.
Well, I love to see young kids take advantage of their opportunities. He knows this is my shot to fulfill probably his childhood dream, and he's making the most of it. We saw the pick earlier. This is just classic center fielder, true free safety. Track the ball, go get it at its high point. Good for you, Sean Baker, making the most of your opportunity.
26-yard return after the pick. You saw it was Keith Tandy running with Brandon Banks as the one-time Buck, Jonathan Crompton, frustrated. So 2 interceptions tonight for Sean Baker, and the Bucks have the football back as we wind down the third quarter. Incomplete. Madu covered by Brian Keel. Madu, as a junior, was moved into the slot receiver position, but again, not practice squad eligible this time around, John, because he got into 9 games last year. So he's going to have to make this roster or go somewhere else. We have an injured Buccaneer, Desmond Wynn, down on the field getting help.
And Madu, you feel for him a little because he just hasn't had any room. The Redskins have dominated the line of scrimmage tonight, and there haven't been any creases for a guy like Madu, who I said earlier doesn't need much to shine, but there haven't been any there for him.
Doug Martin, who got the start last week in the third preseason game. I don't know if you can say he's won the running back job, but he's starting, and as Greg Schiano told us, we'll see a lot of LeGarrette Blount. But when a guy like Martin can catch the football and be in on third down, certainly he showed you a lot with picking up in protection and carrying the ball in tough situations.
Doug Martin's an excellent football player. They're going to be happy they drafted him for a long time. Greg Schiano, simply told us, look, I can't tell the guys that produce with a straight face are going to play and then not play a guy like Doug Martin, who just earned his job this preseason. Numbers aren't great, but he was great. I think he really flashed to me a complete football player. And granted, he's got to go do it now in the regular season when it really counts. But I've seen enough football to know that guy's got the skills that will translate in this league.
Greg Schiano saying Blunt's not happy about it. He's disappointed, but he understands. He'll fight hard. He'll play when we need him, and he'll be and still is an important part of this football team when we call on him, as Wynn is making his way off the field.
And how many times have you seen in this league someone starts week 1 as the go-to guy, particularly at that position, and then 3 weeks later it may be, or the next week it may be LeGarrette Blount who's the lead dog. His skills, the more pounding runner, may set up that week, and it may be a week-to-week thing.
And you've said, as Ratliff sets up to throw, ball was tipped and incomplete. Mike Sullivan, the offensive coordinator, would like to have that New York Giant kind of offense when they had that combination running back with Brandon Jacobs, who could be, LeGarrette Blount could be in that role with this football team.
Absolutely, and Doug Martin would be the Ahmad Bradshaw, and hopefully a even better version. But the New York Giants people, if you look at last season, say, well, they were last in the league in rushing, but at the end of the year they started running the football better, which in turn set up their play action pass, and it's really what makes this offense go.
So from the 48 of the Redskins on 3rd and 10, Ratliff has gone all the way for the Buccaneers at quarterback. Here comes pressure, picked up. Pass is complete. Tyquan Underwood has a first down at the 36-yard line of the Redskins. Mark Dominic, general manager of the Bucs, will be joining us here to start the fourth quarter. After a 12-yard pickup, fresh set of downs for the Bucs.
You think of that play call earlier when they actually went deep. Now next time Tyquan Underwood lines up across from a corner, that corner's got to respect. He may go up top on me, and gives him some separation on the underneath routes.
There's Madu, but nowhere to go. And that'll bring us to the end of the third quarter. On the Ram Truck scoreboard here at FedEx Field, it's the Redskins 30 and the Bucs 3. Tampa Bay on the move. John Lynch, Chris Myers, and Bucs general manager Mark Dominic joining us straight ahead. Glad you're watching the Buccaneers Television Network. And we welcome welcome you back. Start of the fourth quarter. John Lynch, Chris Myers, youthful general manager Mark Dominic joining us in the booth. Thankfully, it's not about the score. It's about the evaluation in this fourth preseason game. Thanks for joining us. You've got some with Coach Greg Schiano and staff. Roster cuts on Friday. Some 20-plus guys to make a move on.
No, that's right. We've got a big night tonight. When we get back, we'll start meeting, already start watching the film, and then we'll go into tomorrow, Thursday, spend the rest of the day watching the film. We'll have a little short practice, and Coach and I will sit down and we'll start making some decisions about this roster.
Ratliff, incomplete. Let me ask you, since you'll be doing this with Greg Schiano, college game a little bit different, how do you two decide your experience with guys at certain positions and obviously some of the personnel that you'll be looking for in other waiver wires?
We've sat down quite a bit over the last months talking about what a 45 or 46-man roster looks like, what a 53 and then a 61, and the different numbers you like to keep at each position. But we don't want to hone in on a specific number, so you have to keep this at the position because we want to try to make sure that we find the way to find the best players.
As Ratliff on 3rd and 9. For Underwood, he made the catch and out of bounds. The ruling there.
Mark, you see a guy like Tyquan Underwood, from all accounts, our thoughts is fighting for a roster spot. How much of it is decided prior to this last game? And I think people at home are interested. How much does this last game count?
Well, it's got a little bit of mix. It's a part of the entire process. But tonight's obviously a big opportunity, a big chance where you can sit there and put a guy in a situation where how does he respond in pressure situations. A lot of these guys we've started, as you know, John, back with the OTAs, then obviously every training camp practice. Greg Schiano's obviously been a lot of padded practices, so we've seen a lot of hard work. And this is the final piece of the evaluation process for this team. And so they can help their cause, but we look at the entire picture.
Yeah, Greg Schiano, Mark, is challenging his second challenge of the preseason, something he has to get used to. The college game doesn't have throw the red flag. So we'll take a look at that to see if Underwood, who made the catch, was indeed inbounds, ruled not a catch on the field. And we'll have more from FedEx in just a moment. And we are back where Greg Schiano with his offensive coordinator Mike Sullivan has challenged. Remember the ruling on the field, no catch. And Tyquan Underwood made the catch. They ruled him out of bounds, actually.
And I think we got a catch because you watch it, you've got control, left foot down, right foot down. You see the grass fly up, and then you got to maintain it through the process of the catch, which is all the way through going to the ground. I think that's a catch. And talking of evaluation, that's my evaluation.
Under the hood.
I like John Lynch's evaluations.
After review, the receiver with possession of the ball got both feet down in bounds. The ruling on the field will be reversed. Tampa Bay's ball, first 10 at the 12-yard line.
Good challenge. Gain of 23. First down, Bucs, and Underwood proving again that's not an easy catch to make. Let me ask you, Mark Dominic up here with us in the booth. Chris Cooley, tight end who's a free agent, popular in Washington, just released. Is he somebody on your radar?
We look at all the players right now that are getting released, not only the younger players that have to go through the waiver wires, but the vested veterans who obviously automatically terminate. I certainly reach out to all their agents and talk to them if there's some type of interest at all, just to make sure that there's context so I can get information of was he going to visit somewhere, what's he going to do. And so we reached out to Chris Cooley to find out what's going on, but we're not pursuing it aggressively right now.
At the receiver position, though, you recently went out and got Jordan Shipley, who we've seen tonight. We'll talk more about that after Ratliff throws and intercepted. That is picked off by Brian Keel. And Underwood brings him down at midfield.
And I got to tell you, certain things, Mark and Chris, that don't go unnoticed with coaches, and it may seem like a little thing at this point, but Tyquan Underwood hustling back to make a tackle here in the fourth quarter in a game that's 33. I think that shows coaches something. Tyquan Underwood, he's stating his case tonight and certainly giving everything he can to make this roster.
That's something actually that we look at, John, when we do evaluations in college and watching college kids and whether we're going to draft them. turnovers are a big thing of how does a guy react? Does he go down the field and make a tackle? Does he get involved? And that's a big thing to us, too, as we evaluate young players, too.
Aurelius Ben, E.J. Biggers, can you update Buccaneer fans on their health status and whether they're there for the opening game a week from Sunday?
Well, it's very encouraging for Aurelius Ben. He had a good last week. He's had a good rehab. He'll be practicing all next week, and it'll be probably more of a game time decision, but very encouraging. E.J. Biggers is moving around. He's got nothing on his feet anymore. He's going to be maybe a week or two longer, but again, both of them are very encouraging for guys that we need to have back.
And the surgery went well for Davin Joseph, an important player here, who's obviously gone for the season.
Yeah, it went well, and Davin's the type of guy that we know that can rehab it, and for offensive linemen, sometimes that injury isn't as significant for a skilled player like a receiver or a running back. So that's very encouraging for Davin Joseph, and it's a loss for a great guy on our football team, but we'll keep rolling.
Second down 2 for Washington. They've run the ball well tonight. That's Boyce, who has been in at fullback carrying, free agent from Washington.
Mark, amidst the coaching change prior to that, after that, for a long time around here since you've taken over, and back when we built our team in Tampa, the team I was a part of, it was building through the draft, and that's been the focus. This year, a little departure from that. Not a departure from that. You still drafted and drafted well, but the free agent market came into effect with Vincent Jackson, with Carl Nix, who am I forgetting? Eric Wright. Spent a lot of money. Why was it time this year?
Well, we really felt like we had a nucleus of young players that we wanted to continue to grow with, and those players, when we went back and looked at 2010 free agency, the 2011 and 2012, what we just got out of, it was going to be the biggest free agent class in the history of the NFL. That's what we figured back in 2011, and that was an important part. Number two, we thought it was a rare opportunity. You got Drew Brees in his contract negotiations and whether he was going to come through, and that released and let Carl Nix become available. Vincent Jackson was back and forth with the franchise tag, and the Detroit Lions have got some cap issues going into it. So all three players were unique opportunities for our football team, and we felt like now's the time. We've been rolling over cap room to save money to be able to be aggressive in free agency. We wanted to make sure there were three players that could really be impacts for our football team.
Was part of that, Mark, surrounding Josh Freeman, and we've been talking about this the entire preseason, John Lynch and I, at the age of 24, and now entering his fourth season as Boyce carries again for Washington, surrounding him with the necessary talent so that you can really assess, is he your quarterback of the future long term? I believe he has 2 years remaining on his contract.
No, he does, and yeah, that's a big part of it. Making sure that we provide him with weapons. LeGarrette Blount and now Doug Martin, certainly with Vincent Jackson and Mike Williams and Aurelius Ben and some of the other receivers, going out to get Dallas Clark, and then trying to solidify that offensive line with a guy of the nature of Carl Nix. All very important to us in the evaluation process of not only the whole football team or offensively, but certainly Josh Freeman.
And Mark, you talk about those frontline guys, and certainly added to the talent and of this football team with those guys, and we've already seen it in the preseason. Those guys are good football players. It seems throughout this preseason that when the second and thirds have gone in, they haven't as good as success, and that speaks to the depth of a roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the explanation there goes with the new coach, different players, and Brian Price all of a sudden is not a fit here. Desmond Bresco, they aren't a fit, and when you start losing players, that affects the depth of a team.
No, it does, and it's something that we're looking into. And we've been spending a lot of time watching tape. Myself, just this morning with Dennis Hickey and some of our scouts, we were sitting in my hotel room watching tape of other teams to make sure we have a chance to scour the waiver wire, whether they're a young guy or a veteran. We're looking around to see if we can improve the entire 53-man roster.
On 4th down and 1, Boyce, the fullback, plunges forward and appears to have the Redskin first down. We're talking with Bucs general manager Mark Dominic. Doug Martin, you traded up into the first round to get him. Obviously, you like what you saw in him talent-wise, and then you interview him. But key to get him in that first round, it's kind of an under-the-radar topic, but you get that extra year on the contract. Explain that.
Well, with the new CBA, rookies have a 5-year. If you're drafted in the first round, you get a 5-year deal that's locked in instead of a typical 4-year deal that you're going to go second through the 7th round. And so part of the element was we wanted to certainly get into the first round and get in front of the Giants who we thought might be taking a running back, which they did. And then also the additional year of a contract, which is an important part because the rookie deals are good deals for clubs. And these players, the longer you can have them under contract, the better it is, and the more players you can add to your football team when you're working under the entire salary cap.
I was going to say, I know you didn't need a quarterback, but Robert Griffin and and certainly Andrew Luck at the top of the draft. I'm sure you and your scouts were able to measure those two and how outstanding you think they'll have as far as NFL careers.
Yeah, no, we had a chance to look at them a little bit, but as soon as the Redskins gave up their draft picks to get Robert Griffin, we knew we didn't have to worry about those two.
The hiring of Greg Schiano, and we had Brian Glazer with us in the booth last week. Certainly you were part of that process, and some are saying, well, Chip Kelly, we thought was going to come here from Oregon, decided to stay. And you reminded me, of course, historically, as Brandon Banks carries again, that back in the 90s, Tony Dungy wasn't necessarily the first choice. John Gruden then wasn't the first choice. There's a flag down. But he ended up being the choice. And can you narrow it down and tell us what stood out most? So we have a holding call here on why Schiano wound up wanting to come here and why you guys made him the choice.
Well, you know, the attention to detail, really a guy that's really got so much passion for the game. He talked about all the different things he wanted to bring to this football team. And it was interesting. He talked about how he wants to schedule each practice. He talked about in detail the different parts and the different elements he had learned from being an assistant coach in the National Football League with the Chicago Bears through running the Rutgers program. And every time you had a chance to talk to him, you felt a man of integrity, a guy of high moral values, a guy that's really a football fanatic. And really he talked about the 1440 and the minutes in the day and how much time you have to devote yourself. And you just really, you grew passionate about how much passion this guy had too as well.
You know, I know you're always, as a general manager, thinking you're building for the long term. Also trying to win this year for the Bucs to be successful, to live up to the expectations you hold, the standards you hold. What in your mind is the key? If there's one issue that you say this has to happen for us to have the type of year we want to have, what is it?
Well, I think they felt a little bit of that when you watched the New England game last week and you saw our football team play against the Patriots one-on-one, that if the guys do their job and believe in the system, that we can have success here. And I believe that's offensively, defensively, special teams. They need to buy in, and I think they are buying in. I think we saw that again last week when we watched us play one-on-one against the New England Patriots. And certainly that's going to be tested in about 10 days when we play Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. But I think that's the most exciting thing because I've seen the players, John, actually physically buy in, and I've seen them get excited about it. And you saw it kind of pay off when Rondé Barber tipped the ball to Mark Barron and made a touchdown. That's a team effort, and they all kind of rallied. I mean, that play epitomized what Coach Schiano talked about. It's, you know, getting to the high point of the ball, which Mark Barron did, run to the near sideline. The intended receiver got blocked as soon as that play started. So there were so many little elements that Coach Schiano taught, and to see it unfold was really good for our young football team.
You know, this is not a knock on the previous head coach at Tampa Bay, but we heard it with Pete Carroll, these two rah-rah, his first time around in the NFL. He's come back and had success. Was it important, going back to Greg Schiano, to bring in, because of the youth on this football team, although guys like Rondé Barber, I don't know if disciplinarian is the right word, but that style of coach?
Well, I'd say that the big thing with coaches...
Ball is fumbled on a fourth down play, and the Bucs, that's Baker, already has 2 interceptions tonight.
He's on fire.
And there's a guy fighting for a roster spot.
I think he got a hat trick.
Yes.
No, I think it was important to get structure and really the details and the little things, and that was a big part of what we wanted to see in Greg Schiano.
We'll continue with General Manager Mark Dominic here in the fourth quarter. The Bucs defense with a stop. While you're watching Buccaneer football, they have the football, trailing 30-3 in the booth. Mark Dominic, General Manager of the Bucs, with us. In this rookie class, you get 2 of the starters on defense September 9th when you open at home against Carolina, Levante David and Mark Barron. And then, of course, Doug Martin on offense. So likely that maybe 6 of the 7 draft picks will stick with this team.
Yeah, you know, it can be 6 or 7 of the draft picks can make this football team, Chris. And that's been exciting. And that's part of the reason why we targeted those players early in the draft and moved around to kind of land guys that we thought could be instant impacts, especially at specific positions on this football team. Will, linebacker. John will agree with me, safety. I can't underestimate the position of safety. And then a running back that can do all 3 things.
Well, certainly with Sean Baker coming up with the turnover as Madhu carries. Kind of unusual, Mark, that you face the Redskins here and then you'll face them in 4 weeks at home, but that opener and then those 2 road games, and as John Lynch said, we're gonna find out. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Yeah, no, and it's a great challenge for us right off the bat. Obviously, Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers last year, we had a hard time with that offense and slowing them down. You come back and you play 2 tough road games, and again you play the Washington Redskins, which is why we're playing week 3. We've always kind of had a give and take relationship with the Redskins over the last couple of years to play preseason. But it's going to be a good test for our young football team. But, we got to get ready to go, and I think they'll be ready to go.
Madhu with a spin move and fights to try and get a first down. You likely to keep 4 tailbacks? Is that possible? Maybe 1 fullback, given the Doug Martin, Michael Smith, the rookie talent?
Yeah, I think there's a chance that we could keep 3, 4, or 5 tailbacks / fullbacks in this football team. I mean, that many guys makes a lot of sense to us. We just got to continue to go back, look at this film, look at their opportunities here. But then again, going back, looking at the practice film and all the things, we've made a case and built binders on each one of these players to determine whether they're going to make our final roster.
If you don't mind me asking, give the fans an update on Daquan Bowers, a player that was really emerging and starting to become a special player at the end of last year, had the Achilles injury. Where's he at, and what's going on with his roster situation?
Well, I think the encouraging part about Daquan was, although he popped his Achilles tendon, the way he broke it, there's different ways you can do it. His was a clean break, which makes you have a better chance at a more successful and faster recovery time, which he's done. He's already lightly jogging, starting to run around. Now, we placed him on the PUP list, so that means he's going to be out the first 6 weeks of the regular season. Then we'll have the option to put him back on the team. I'm very, very optimistic that Daquan Bowers will play this year, and it's not because we're rushing him, it's because he physically can go. And we'll take our time, and Daquan is certainly excited to try to come back and be part of this football team this year.
On 2nd down 2, Madhu has been carrying much of the workload here on the ground, and will get the carry again, try to slip out of a tackle. Any phone calls on trade discussions, either with this guy Forbath, who you threw him out there as a punter? Last time I think he punted was in high school, and he's held up well, and of course made all the field goal tries.
Yeah, he had a good night tonight. Actually, he hit a couple good punts, and he actually was out there hitting a long field goal tonight with a backup holder and a backup long snapper. And that's hard for a kicker's mentality to walk out there and actually make a kick. So Kai, but we've been on the phone. I've been on the phone a lot, actually, all day today, speaking to different general managers of different football teams, just to see, is there anything where I've got surplus or depth as an organization? Do we have extra players? Where's their surplus and depth? To see if there's a chance. Trades are hard to do in the National Football League, a little less frequent, but we're certainly trying to make one happen if it can help our football team.
On 3rd and 3, and it looks like Robert Hughes going to be a little bit short. Former tailback at the fullback spot, that versatility. That second season, we've talked about it, and Mark, I know you used in the past, the signing a free agent that's let go by another team, whether it's LeGarrette Blount or a guy like Michael Bennett, who have produced for this football team. So you're obviously always looking. You're already ready to see which team is releasing which guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's what we'll sit there and continue to do. As you know, the roster cuts are coming up really soon, and we've got a short window there that evening to finalize who we want to try to claim on another club. And we're going to be aggressive. We'll be active, and we'll be available. We're going to look at other players at different positions and not just hone in on one specific spot.
Yeah, you go from 75 to 53, so you might even go a little less than that. So there's room if you see a player you like to bring in.
Yeah, once we get together as a staff and really sit down and talk about it, there's a good chance that we could go under 53 to be prepared to claim a player or sign a veteran who got released by their club.
And Hughes did get the first down, and we thank you for your time as always. Good luck through the season, and we'll be watching regular season opener against Carolina.
Sounds good.
And does Seattle lean on you a lot? Say, hey, you're the guy who has experience. You got me into this. Help me out here.
Greg is a phenomenal guy to work with. I can't speak high enough about him. I think that people in Tampa and around the National Football League will continue to know why we hired him. The more they're around him, the more they get to see him. I think Tampa fans should be very excited about our head coach we have here and really the direction we're going to put this football team. And it's disappointing tonight. Certainly the score is not what you want to see, but at the end of the day, this isn't our football team. You'll see that starting next week against the Carolina Panthers.
Well, Mark, my friend, best of luck to you.
John, good
Appreciate
to see you
your
very
time.
much. Thanks very much.
Have a
great to see you again.
All right, always a pleasure. Great start
gentlemen.
and a terrific season. General Manager Mark Dominic, who obviously had a lot to do with the hiring of Greg Schiano and the Buccaneers' second-string players, third-string players like Robert Hughes, showing what he can do in the tailback position. Interesting that we might see Doug Martin, LeGarrette Blount, Michael Smith, Madhu, and then maybe somebody in that fullback spot, right? Whether it's Lord, your old Stanford guy who was switched over from defense.
Right. I mean, this is one of the not many offenses that are employing full-time fullbacks anymore. But Greg Schiano, a big believer in running the football, and maybe that college mentality. He wants a fullback on his roster. Going to carry one for sure, at least two, or maybe two But those are all the ifs. All right, if we carry 2 here, we're short 1. It's actually pretty interesting.
Moving the number is almost like a chessboard. If I take 6 receivers, then I got to only have 3 tight ends. And all of this, of course, on 3rd and 7 as we near the 2-minute warning for the Bucs.
And that's why we say in our keys the best 53 Bucs doesn't mean the most talented players. It means the best for this roster to give them the best chance of winning.
Tough handoff, protecting the football and getting run out of bounds is Madu to take us to the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes remaining in 2012 preseason for Greg Schiano. You're watching the Buccaneers from FedEx Field, Washington, D.C. White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. Redskins and Bucs will play in Game 4, and so far, look at that running game for Mike Shanahan's Redskins.
They came out and wanted to get that running game going, and they did so very effectively.
Our thanks to Mark Dominic for coming by, and the public relations staff of the Buccaneers, Mike Mahanic, Dan Berglund. Ratliff's throw is incomplete. Alan Barrett, Kelly Schutz, and, of course, Jonathan Grella for their cooperation with us throughout the preseason once again. And the video crew, Chris Bryan, Brian Templin, Justin Camp, and Tim Jiraki of the Buccaneers. Redskins and Buccaneers in the preseason. Also from the video crew, didn't want to forget Dave Levy.
The head honcho.
That's right, you can't forget the boss. And also up in the booth, always helping us, James Petralka, Rick Odioso, Tampa Bay area residents. You know, Dave Moore, of course, the former Buccaneer who's part of Gene Deckerhoff and the radio broadcast, Mike Allstott, the great fullback, head coaches for high school Shorecrest Prep and Northside Christian, and they're going to play each other on Friday.
And they aren't speaking.
They're intense. That's the kind of competitors they were on the field.
Absolutely.
And doing a good job coaching some young players, maybe some NFL stars of the future. Well, John, we look at the schedule with the Buccaneers, and I think Greg Schiano has quite a challenge ahead. But as you looked at the first-string players, is it safe to assume that you think the Bucs will improve on that 4-win total? I mean, what kind of a record, given that schedule, what kind of season do you think this Buccaneer team will have?
We saw that schedule's tough right from the very start. But, yes, I think they'll win more than 4 games. It'd be very disappointing if they didn't. I tell you, I've been very impressed with Greg Schiano. Look, it comes down to the players on the field, but he is going to leave no stone unturned. I've been very impressed with everything to his feel for his team. I mean, he's basically told us going into week 2 he didn't think his team would play really well. Week 3 he thought they'd play very well. And he's got a good pulse of his team. I think he's worked them extremely hard, but now he's starting to ease up. He wants fresh legs for this opener, and I like what I've seen from him. I think, as we've talked, and you hate to belabor a point, but I think the depth on this team is an issue. It's something that will take time, just as it's taken Mike Shanahan time to fix. But ultimately, I think they found their right guy.
I'll be there week 4 to call the Redskin-Buccaneer game, and you'll be there when the Eagles play in the celebration of the Super Bowl team. But they've got some quarterbacks to contend with, starting with Cam Newton, Eli Manning, Tony Romo, and then Robert Griffin III. But they'll be counting on their quarterback, Josh Freeman, and their veteran safety, Rondé Barber. 2-2 is how the first preseason as a head coach in the NFL will end up with Greg Schiano.
I think all in all, you got some things done. You've seen their new acquisitions pay dividends, and I think we'll see it throughout the year. The likes of Vincent Jackson and Doug Martin and Carl Nix, some big-time players.